Good morning from Tokyo. I'm HOSODA Kenichi, State Minister for Economy, Trade and Industry. I'd like to thank the Research Institute of Economy, Trade and Industry, the Australian National University, and the panelists for the opportunity to speak today. Since the establishment of the WTO in 1995, we have maintained economic relations among nations based on WTO rules. However, the WTO is becoming dysfunctional. Countries are increasingly leaning toward regional trade agreements, and some are resorting to unilateral measures that the WTO was supposed to forbid. There's also a growing movement regarding economic security, such as securing supply chains for essential goods and raw materials. Given this complex situation, how should we shape the new global economic order? And what kind of international cooperation is necessary to support it? Policymakers around the world are currently facing these difficult questions. Today, I'd like to kick off the discussion by introducing Japan's initiatives on regional economic cooperation, the WTO, and economic security. First, I'd like to touch on the main topic of today's discussion, the spread of high standard rules through regional economic partnerships. Unfortunately, WTO rules that support the global free trade system are out of date with regard to the current international situation, such as climate change, digitalization, and securing a level playing field. Considering this situation, we believe it is meaningful to establish a system of rules that can serve as a pioneer in matters of particular interest to countries within the fast-growing Asia-Pacific region. For this reason, along with our efforts in the WTO, we have been actively working to maximize the potential of regional economic partnership agreement. In particular, the CPTPP is an agreement that establishes new 21st century rules that are free and fair, leading to greater business predictability and stability for companies. The CPTPP achieved not only the elimination of tariffs on goods, but also the liberalization of services and investment in the Pacific region. Furthermore, the CPTPP agreement contributed to the establishment of high standards of both market access and rules in a wide range of areas, such as intellectual property, government procurement, state-owned enterprises, and labor disciplines. In that sense, it was a major step forward in building a new international economic order. Several economies have expressed interest in joining the CPTPP. These aspirant economies must be sufficiently prepared to access and meet the high standard rules of the agreement. These rules are what members have agreed to unanimously. By ensuring compliance to CPTPP rules without exceptions through the accession process, we hope the high standard rules of the CPTPP will spread globally. Japan is ready to take a leadership role in this regard. The withdrawal of the United States from the TPP in 2017 was unfortunate. We are taking various opportunities to urge the United States to return to the TPP. It is necessary that the US to deepen its involvement in the regional economy to build a stable international economic order. We hope that the United States will show its leadership through concrete actions. Another new regional initiative in this regard is the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, IPEF, recently announced by the United States. We believe that this could be a comprehensive framework to promote regional economic growth address the climate crisis and maintain a free and fair economic area. Japan would like to work with the relevant countries so that the IPEF could become a meaningful framework for the region. Additionally, the RCEP, which entered into force this year, also prohibits technology transfer requirements, as well as restrictions on cross-border data flows and enhance the protection of intellectual property. It is a remarkable step for that 15 economies, including China and some least developed countries, were able to agree on these rules, despite different stages of development and institutional systems. We wish to develop this agreement as a regional platform on trade with a view to further improving and enhancing its rules, including in digital trade. Today's symposium is co-hosted by the Australian National University and Research Institute of Economy, Trade and Industry of Japan. Australia is a like-minded country with which we share a common understanding of what I have just noted, and a trusted friend who has been a driving force and a great help in the process of the conclusion and entry into force of the CPTPP. We look forward to continuing to work together to establish a new economic order in this region. Next, on the WTO, it is crucial to strengthen the WTO, the core of the free trade system, to create an international economic order for this new era. A quarter of a century after its establishment, the WTO has expanded to 164 members, and the application of WTO rules has spread accordingly. Nevertheless, we have not achieved new agreements necessary to address common new issues, such as securing supply chains of essential goods. As we all know, the WTO operates through consensus. To update the rulebook, we need some creative solutions. We have been trying to address the stagnation in rulemaking, mainly through plurilateral initiatives. Joint Statement Initiatives, or JSIs, have attracted the participation of many members, including developing countries. Last December, we successfully announced the conclusion of negotiations on domestic regulation of services and released joint statements on e-commerce, investment facilitation, and trade and environmental sustainability. In this initiative on environmental sustainability, we aim to address issues such as the removal of trade barriers, including regulations to facilitate the spread of products, services, and technologies that contribute to reducing carbon emissions. Also, Japan, Australia, and Singapore are the co-conveners of the WTO plurilateral negotiation on e-commerce negotiations involving 86 members, which aim to achieve rules of free flow of data and source code protection as soon as possible. The trade rules that materialize the concept of data free flow with trust proposed by Japan will facilitate the growth of the digital economy. These are the new forms of global rulemaking, and we aim to achieve tangible results in each area. To ensure the effectiveness of these agreements, it is essential to restore a well-functioning WTO dispute settlement system, which applies to all WTO members. Japan will cooperate with partners to have concrete discussions as soon as possible, so that the WTO will still work as a relevant body to restrain unfair policies and measures. My last point is on economic security. Economic security is one of the biggest issues in the world today. The intensifying competition for technological dominance between the United States and China and the spread of COVID-19 have exposed to the vulnerability of global supply chains. In response to these security concerns related to economic activities, major economies are mobilizing comprehensive measures such as massive physical action to secure strategic goods and production bases and improve technology, as well as strengthening unilateral export controls to prevent the leakage of sensitive technologies. In light of this situation, Japan has set major goals for its economic security policy, which includes the first, to enhance the autonomy of Japan's economic structure by strengthening the supply chain and ensuring the reliability of key infrastructure. Second, to nurture key technologies such as artificial intelligence and quantum technologies to ensure the superiority and even indispensability of Japanese technologies. For example, through the economic security legislation, Japan will support the strengthening of supply chains and establish an advanced safety review system for critical equipment and systems in basis infrastructure such as electric power, telecommunications, and financial services. We will establish a system for the non-disclosure of patents on invention that are sensitive to security. Also, we will support capital investment in key technology areas such as semiconductor manufacturing. Today, I outlined Japan's efforts and challenges. Japan will continue to take the lead to spread high standard rules by utilizing regional economic partnerships, while continuing to pursue global agreements at the WTO. Moreover, as economic mutual interdependence deepens on a global scale, economic security, the attempt to guarantee national security through economic measures, is becoming increasingly visible. Economic security does not mean fragmenting the global economy into different blocks. Promoting partnerships among like-minded countries that share fundamental values like freedom, democracy, and the rule of law, and reinforcing our rules-based engagement, such as through the CPTPP and RCEP, also contributes to realizing economic security. How to engage beyond simply improving market access is the issue. We believe the IPEF may serve as a key test on this question. Policymakers in Japan and around the world are struggling daily to find ways to respond to these simultaneous demands. Fortunately, we have renowned experts with us here today. I'm looking forward to an active and insightful discussion on how to succeed and what the best mix of approaches is to shape the international economic order to meet contemporary challenges. Thank you very much.